Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to another action-packed episode of the Jim Stroud Show. I am your host with the most, bringing you information that you can use. Today we have a special guest. I'm going to let him introduce himself. Tell me, sir, who are you and what do you do?
Well, hi, Jim. This is Dan Finniegan. I'm the CEO of Jobvite. And what we do is we are changing the game of recruiting software. We're a complete recruiting platform in the cloud that helps companies and recruiters manage not only the recruiting process at what we say is the bottom of the funnel during the sales cycle with candidates, but at the top of the funnel when you're marketing your job in your company. It's a great place to work.
I'm so glad you're here because I've had a question I wanted to ask you for a while, ever since I knew you'd be on the show. Actually, it was a rumor, so hopefully you can verify it. Is it true that the Perfect Strangers are reuniting and you guys are going to tour Europe next year?
Well, we've talked about it, and if Jobvite wasn't going so well, I'd be on that train.
For those who are unaware, maybe you want to elaborate on who the Perfect Strangers are?
Oh, it's a band that I was in college at UCLA, and a long time ago. I don't think I'm going to tell anybody when it was, but we recorded a couple of singles, even got one little bit of radio time.
Ah, check you out. A man of many talents. Wanted to sort of catch you off guard with that one. Hopefully that made you smile. One thing I think about when I think about Jobvite is that I eagerly await every year your social recruiting survey. It's a must read. I have to read it every year, and I know a lot of my recruiting friends download it all the time just to read the latest insights. What they may not be aware of is that you also have a job seeker survey, sort of the equivalent thereof for job seekers. I know that'll be making its debut pretty soon. Are there any insights you can share with me as to what job seekers are doing these days?
Yes, I think it's so clear now that the world of both looking for a job and recruiting people to fill a job has really changed in the 20 years I've been in the industry, since 1994. What's now very obvious in this year's survey is that workers are constantly shopping for jobs.
Mm-hmm.
They believe they have to manage their own career paths, market themselves. Social media has quickly become almost a dominant platform for workers and job seekers to look for work. And the other more recent trend, that's maybe even more timely, is while it used to be something people did on Sunday night with the newspaper, and when I ran hotjobs.com, a job board many years around the board of Career Builder, most of our traffic came on Sunday night and Monday morning when people started going to work. Well, now this survey shows that people are looking for work all the time, in bathrooms, in bed, in their own office, with their cell phone.
Okay, so it's sort of always on. It's that's interesting. It has changed quite a bit because I remember way back in the Stone Age of the '80s, and even further the '90s, circling newspaper. So things have certainly changed quite a bit there.
Right.
In terms of mobile job
We're
seekers,
a long way from the classifieds and the red pen.
so true. In terms of mobile job seekers, what do you think? What are you finding as far as what people are using as far as mobile devices to do all this searching? Is it all iPhones and iPads, or? Because I'm thinking.
Well, we didn't ask that question in the survey. I'm sure it goes along with market share of usage of smartphones, and I know smartphones have passed regular cell phones in terms of internet usage.
Okay.
Smartphones meaning Android, iPhone.
Let me switch gears with you just a little bit because I think I heard you on another podcast or read an article or something along the lines that you were quoted in saying that recruiting is marketing. Could you expound on that a bit more? What do you mean when you say recruiting is marketing?
Well, sure. Marketing and sales as professions have really dramatically changed in the last 15 years due to the internet, due to targeting on the internet, due to searching on the internet. All of that has dramatically changed. And it's now affecting recruiting as well. salespeople's jobs changed with Salesforce, CRMs for Salesforce, where you work with a prospect. And ATS has changed recruiting when they came out with software that helped you work with candidates. The same thing. But now, marketers are using marketing automation software, and they're using content management software to build databases of prospects that they turn into opportunities. Well, now recruiters are starting to do the same thing. They're creating databases of prospective candidates before they ever apply for a job, and then running campaigns against those databases to try and convert them. So it really means that the profession of recruiting during this very tough time for the next foreseeable 15 years, where skilled talent and top talent is going to be difficult to find worldwide, they're going to have to build a deep database of prospective people to run campaigns against to convert and compete.
What would be your personal philosophy around managing candidates? In other words, do you believe in keeping a database for applicants and a separate database for passive candidates, or as some people do? How do you really see that?
Well, I do. I mean, we know there's even a legal status when it comes to candidates who apply for a job. And I do think companies who are trying to compete for hard-to-find skilled workers just aren't going to be able to do so unless they do start building databases of prospects. And it's not that hard to do anymore, given the evolution of social media. Marketers know that, yes, they should still buy advertising to use paid media to build the database of prospective customers. But that's not enough anymore. If you're a CMO, you need to create content and distribute that content and also use social media to get an earned audience. Well, recruiters can now do the same. Instead of just having a careers website of jobs, you really need content that describes why your company is a great place to work. You need to have white papers that describe what kind of career paths you can have at your company and in a particular profession. And then get that content distributed so that people can follow it on Twitter, like it on Facebook, read it on LinkedIn. And when they do those things, they're going to be entering your database that you will then own and have, and then you can run campaigns against it whenever you have particular openings, or let's say starting a college recruiting campaign. So I don't think recruiting can compete in the long run unless they begin to adopt the practices of their peers down the hallway in marketing.
So you think recruiters of the future, they should have like a strong marketing background? Does that come more important, or should they have a strong content development, or a little bit of everything?
Well, the fact is, I think the exciting part for heads of recruiting and people in HR is that the function of recruiting is going to become more important over time. It's the single function within human resources that most drives profit growth at a company, according to the study by Bain Consulting, or Boston Consulting Group, excuse me. So it means that the profession is expanding, and it means then that people need to add to their skill set. It's not they got to switch from one thing to another. They will always have to be able to sell candidates to close them. But it does mean that you got to get involved in the recruiting process earlier and market to larger numbers of prospects before you get into the business of selling them on a particular job.
You know, one more question for you, and I hear this a lot, so I'm really interested to hear what your take on it is. A lot of people I speak to, they'll say, I see the value in social recruiting and I want to do it, but I don't know if I have enough time, or they'll say, how do I know I've spent my time wisely in my social recruiting efforts? So what I want to ask you is, when you're analyzing the results of a campaign, a social recruiting campaign, to attract these passive candidates, what are you paying most attention to? Is it unique visits to a career site, the links that are clicked via Twitter or something? What do you study or pay attention to most when you're analyzing your results?
Well, I'm going to answer that question in two parts.
Okay.
The first part, which I think is a really important part of your question, which is, if you're busy day to day and you can barely get by fill the seats and put people in the seats. It's hard to do new things, without a doubt, and every profession knows this. So I do think it's important for heads of recruiting and recruitment leaders to look at the return on investment in investing more time and more money into recruiting and the recruiting process. And I think business leaders now understand that the cost to a company of having positions unfilled for months is quite high. And so I think your first step to do is to have buy-in from your leadership, your executive leadership, your business management, that recruiting matters, and that share studies like the Boston Consulting Group study that prove it and show it, and share data on the number of days outstanding for filling a position. And when you show that, I think most business leaders realize that their business, their growth, and their profit is composed of filling people and having the workers in place, because we're not a capital investment economy anymore. We are a labor service economy. The second part of your question, which is, what do you measure? How do you measure success? I think you got to look at recruiting as a funnel. And at the very top of the funnel, you have people who are interested in careers and interested in companies. They're reading content. And they're not necessarily applying for a job. As you can see from our survey, 71% of the workers out there are either actively looking for a job or just open to a new job. And so what they're doing is they're shopping. They're shopping as if they're going to buy furniture next year. They're not going to buy furniture this weekend. They're probably going to buy it next year. But what are they doing? They're paying attention to pictures of furniture, design magazines, things like that. Well, so if you look at it that way, you need to have a measure how many people are clicking on the content you create about your company on your career site. You need to look at how many people are following your content on Twitter or on LinkedIn. So that's one phase. Then the second phase is, once you do that, you definitely also have to look at the next part of the funnel, which is how many people click on it and follow it and put their names in your database, or how many people actually go further down to apply for a job. If you're a head of marketing or you run demand generation in a company somewhere, you're not looking at any one part of the funnel. You're looking at the whole funnel. And that's why it's important to have software and tools that help you do so, that help you essentially track everything from the top of the funnel down to the absolute higher.
Very interesting, very cool. As you were saying that, I was trying to remember some stats that I saw on mobile apps. I can't say this for sure. I think it was it Line or WeChat? I forget exactly what app it was. But it was some huge number. I think it was Line. Yeah, Line, which is an app out of China, actually. And it was a mobile, not really a mobile app, more of a social network that's just on the phone. And as you're saying that, I was thinking about how important content is to get these passive candidates' attention, because there's a growing audience that may not be online per se, but they're taking advantage of these social networks that are just on their mobile phone, which is maybe another headache for sourcers to try to find these people, because there are some people you won't be able to find. You're going to have to attract them. And to your comment about content, that makes it even more crucial to reach that hidden audience. So, thank you for saying that.
We looked at in the survey. We looked at in our survey people who do job seeking through social networks, and the fact is, LinkedIn, as we all know, is a very dominant professional network, especially for hiring 4-year college-educated, highly skilled workers, managers. But Facebook, by this group, was 76% of the social job seekers in our survey had found their current position through Facebook.
Wow.
And the fact is that it's become a dominant way for people to communicate all over the world. And we all know that the best jobs are found through people through connections. and this has now become a permanent and significant channel for filling positions. And to ignore it, you would do so at your peril.
Very interesting, especially with those numbers to back up what you say, because I've always thought, my rationale has been that Facebook being, of course, number one, and so many people there, a great place to be, but I always thought that people would be kind of skittish, not wanting recruiters to approach them. I'm wondering, is it that Facebook is so popular because their friends are recommending them as opposed to a recruiter reaching out to them? Would you think that be the case?
That's exactly right. I think that is exactly correct. I think the behavior that we're seeing a lot is that it's almost like people now wouldn't think to go to an expensive restaurant or to go visit a hotel without asking their friends on Facebook or people on Yelp, who's been there, what do you think of this place? It's almost become instinctive online. Well, the same thing is happening now with their job seeking. If they see a job opening that may interest them, they're going to first try to vet it through the people they know on their social network. And then if they do that, then they might hear from somebody else of a different job that may be better. So people are talking, and they're talking about your company, as Glassdoor is showing. They're talking about your management. They're talking about your job. They're talking about whether it's a good place to work. And all of that goes into this area of social job seeking and social recruiting.
Steve, if you could help settle an argument. This is really a prediction. Nothing to back it up, but just my own suspicion. I really think that Facebook wants to buy LinkedIn, and this is why I say that. LinkedIn is synonymous in a lot of people's minds with your professional life. Facebook is synonymous to a lot of people's minds with your personal social life. I've noticed that in their Facebook's layout redesigns over the past few months. You'll see up on the left-hand side where you'll see someone's name and their job title, and as you log into Facebook and look on your own homepage, you'll see what I call a gentle nag, where Facebook will say, have you filled out your About profile? And I really think they're trying to gradually herd people to putting more information on their About pages so that recruiters can find them and they can sell that information to recruiters better. So if they were able to successfully maneuver their users to add more of their occupational data to their Facebook profile, that's just more revenue for them in the event that they do not buy or cannot buy LinkedIn. Does that sound sound to you, or does that just sound far-fetched?
Well, I have no idea if one company wants to buy the other. I do know that they're both very, very successful, and LinkedIn has just, I think, transformed recruiting in so many great positive ways, and they've done a great job getting LinkedIn users to spend more and more time at LinkedIn. But it is, it's without a doubt, Facebook also, and people I know who work there and manage there, strongly believe that Facebook needs to be a central part of people's lives. And as one executive there told me, where you work, who you live with, where you live, what you do are all essential parts to your life. So, your work experience and your professional experience matters to Facebook, and I think they want you to share information about that, not just photos about your most recent party or your children.
Sure. Well, Dan Finniegan, CEO of Jobvite, thank you so much for your time today in the Recruiter's Lounge.
My pleasure. Nice talking.